Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and yours truly, the captain, and it is another cold night in the north. We are freezing our asses off over here on the East Coast, and but things are heating up, aren't they, pal? Things are heating up in Washington.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it just started snowing actually up here. So,
yeah,
we're back.
Coming home, it was snowing.
The news cycle does not stop. What are we going to talk about tonight? Let's spin the wheel. We're going to change it up just a little bit. And I thought we'd go into outer space. We're going to start with a story regarding an asteroid that has been spotted by NASA and the percentage, they're charting out the path and the percentage of its, possibility that it's going to hit the Earth has been rising the past couple of weeks. I'm really disappointed that Garrett is not here tonight. We tried to get him on. He's just so busy. He's not going to be able to make it because Garrett is the best person to bring on for episodes that have to do with space, just because me and him are going to have completely polar opposite, point of views on the whole thing. So that's going to be one of our topics. There'll be others. We'll probably actually get to the other topics tonight because Garrett's not here. So, what do you want to talk about, Cap?
I would like to start with a toast. It is Thursday. I got some Maker's Mark. You getting your little drinky poo?
I had one over here. I just forgot it.
All good.
I got, we'll be talking a little bit about Germany later. So I got a nice German beer. Worth mentioning that these Oktoberfest German beers that are in cans do not ever explode when it gets below below zero over here in the man cave. And like Miller Lights and other beers in cans,
they explode.
The German beers do not. They have been sitting pretty all winter. So let's do that.
All right.
Now when I open it.
So, moment of truth. Is it a German bomb? So
there it is.
All right. All right, so cheers, pal. Earlier this week, I had commented, I saw our good friend James from We the People post something. You good over there? You making a mess?
I'm listening.
I'll wait for you to come.
I'm listening.
Okay. So our good friend James from We the People posted something. I won't say what he posted. You could go check that out for yourself at We the People on Instagram. And, he's excited, but he wants things to come faster. And I said, sit back, and savor this. Enjoy the meltdown, because if you think of it, Skaggs, what is taking place now, all the heads exploding, the meltdowns, the panic, the fear, we warned you all about this 4-5 years ago. We told you this was coming. We told you there was going to be some type of repercussion for your actions. And what we are witnessing is the fruits of our labor. And I think it's time we celebrate and enjoy this. So cheers, pal. We've been right with our conspiracies all along.
Yeah, Trump 2.0 is way better
Yes.
than Trump 1.0.
And on that note, I think we need to go buy some champagne, because cheers, Kash Patel, the new FBI Director of Investigation. Adam Schiff, your days are numbered. So I think we're going to have to buy some champagne, because when we start getting some perp walks, we got a party.
Yeah, I agree. That'll be interesting. I think now that Kash Patel is in, we'll see, perhaps like the wheels of justice start turning and start punishing some people who legitimately deserve to be punished after a fair trial, and all of those things are brought to light. And if nothing can be brought to light, then they don't deserve to go to prison. They just deserve to be shamed. On social media,
fair enough.
By the rest of us.
Now that YouTube's been appeased, I will also, Cash, first thing tomorrow morning, I want the Epstein files on my desk. Okay.
That's still a battle, Cap. That's not coming easily.
No, I'm sure it's
stuff,
not.
That's a process. Going to get the paperwork and all that stuff. So all interesting, interesting times ahead. Of course, there'll be more stuff to talk about. Don't forget, we got Ken Good coming back on the 4th. We got a bunch more reviews.
A lot more whiskey reviews.
The list is piling up before we can.
I also, we'll run it. I'll run it by you live on air. I went to our home base the other day, Bass Pro Shop, and I bought all these, a few different beef jerkies. Maybe we start doing some beef jerky reviews.
Right, I'm with it.
Manly as fuck, right?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Okay. Let's start off with our first topic of the night.
Outer space.
Which is about an asteroid that has been spotted, like I said earlier. And for the first time in a long time, CNN is going to make an appearance on the Two Doomed Men podcast. Now, in of itself, this is interesting, because this morning, as I was trying to put together the episode, I found this story. And I'm like, all right, from CNN, it's part of the thing. I'm getting it from the establishment, the story in of itself. Since it's changed, I got this story this morning around, I think, like 11 o'clock in the morning. If you look here, it was updated again at 6:23, and the percentage has changed again, right? So let's start off and let's read a bit, and then we'll talk about it. An asteroid's chances of hitting Earth keep shifting. Here's why that's happening. This morning, the title was even different. It was like the chances of the asteroid hitting Earth have gone up to 3.2%. So they even changed the title. Again, even in of itself, it's a bit dystopian, because you could publish an article and then edit it later to kind of fit your narrative or agenda. And this isn't a one-to-one like we'd be talking about politics. It's science, but I kind of don't like that concept in general, where, like, imagine if Captain and I record a whole episode and we say something and somehow we could edit what we said later if it didn't fit some sort of approved narrative.
Go back and fix it through AI. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, something like that. So a recently discovered asteroid named 2024 YR4 is now the riskiest asteroid ever detected. On Tuesday, NASA calculated that space rock has a 3.1 chance of hitting Earth in 2032. While the European Space Agency's risk assessment sits at 2.8, the narrow difference is due to the two agencies' use of different tools for determining the asteroid's orbit and modeling its potential impact. But both percentages rise above the 2.7% chance of collision once associated with an asteroid discovered in 2004 called Apophis. I remember that, making 2024 the most significant space rock to be spotted within the past 2 decades. However, another update shared by NASA on Wednesday, and this is the edited part of the article, the hours after I even copied it to use it on our episode tonight. An update shared by NASA on Wednesday showed that 2024 YR4 has a 1.5 chance of colliding with Earth in December of 2032. Based on new observations, now that the full moon has passed, astronomers have anticipated that such fluctuations are possible as they gather more observational data. So for the first time, kind of taking the wind out of my sails a little bit, but at the same time also still proving my point. The percentage has gone down for the first time that I've seen regarding the asteroid hitting the Earth. And like, why am I even bringing this up? I have seen this story pop up in the news cycle and on Twitter nearly every day. The big influencer accounts are posting about it, echoing the news that's coming out of NASA and the European Space Agency about like the percentage of impact going up. And let's just be real here, folks. We're 5 years out from COVID. I think at this point, every single story warrants skepticism, especially something along the lines of there's an asteroid coming and it's going to hit the Earth and, you know, possibly kill everyone on planet Earth. What are your thoughts in general, Cap, before I give a little bit more?
I have a nice rant set up, and then you could go full force into it. I got to say, I don't want to burst your bubble or disrespect. I could care less about this story. Okay. One, it's 8 years out, so we have 8 years to party and live it up. Two, isn't it just so coincidental that it's going to hit during an election year, and it's going to hit a month. It's going to hit a month before the inauguration. Oh my God! Whoever thought of this? Whoever thought of this one? Okay, Trump completely owns the narrative. He is bombarding the narrative so hard and so fast they can't keep up with him, and all of a sudden, an asteroid's going to hit the planet now. Okay, this is nothing more than fear mongering as far as I am concerned. Okay. And this is kind of what you were touching on, because we got to, look at this very skeptical. NASA is not an organization that I trust anymore. Okay. I have my own ideas of what happened with the moon landing or whether we made it to space or if Earth is flat or a bowl or, we live in a dome, whatever. I don't think NASA should really be getting out there and making these predictions, but it's just so convenient that, Trump is in office. He's doing what he promised. Accountability is coming. Waste is being cut out. We are on a potential trajectory to become a very strong, great nation once again. And you mean to tell me the second things start getting good, we find this percentage of an asteroid that's going to come and hit the planet? Nah, I'm good. I don't buy it in the least bit. Like I was saying before, Trump owns the news cycle every day, every hour he owns the news cycle. This is their one opportunity to create a story where everybody stops listening to Trump's news cycle and they get to be scared about something again. Because we all know NPCs love being scared. They love following leaders and they love being scared. Fear mongering. I don't
good in the algorithm too. Like I told you before, I've seen it every day. The big influencer accounts are posting it with videos of asteroids coming in and hitting the Earth, hitting New York City, when the trajectory that NASA has shared doesn't even have the asteroid anywhere landing near New York City. It's like near the equator in Africa. That's like where in theory it could possibly land. I
don't. It's so far out. I don't care, man. Like,
so So again, I appreciate everything you said. We're I'm gonna go at this from the point of view of the opposite of Garrett. Let's give NASA everything. Let's say that like what NASA does is legit. Space is space. The moon is the moon. There are rocks, gravity. Right. The Earth is not flat. It's round. All that stuff. Okay. Given all that, we just spent, like I said before, the past 5 years, the institutions of the United States federal government are at the lowest point they have ever been in terms of the public's trust. Ever. You now mean to tell me that something that is 8 years out in the future, perhaps, every single day you're going to change the percentage that this event, this fear-mongering, devastating event is going to occur, and you're going to publicly announce that every day. Yeah. If you were trying to make sure that whatever faith people had in NASA also was completely eroded in the next 8 years, that's exactly what you would do.
Yeah.
We're already at a point where everyone is skeptical of everything any institution is going to say. Every day you're making some sort of proclamation that's then going out to social media influencers again, pumping some. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. perhaps this is innocent, and this is the way. Again, I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, they really found a rock, and it might be on the trajectory
and
to
every
hit
day
Earth.
they are posting.
Yeah.
They are revising their percentage, and they're telling the world it's not what you want to do. If you were just in a period of mistrust with your significant other, right, and you just got through it, and as soon as you found out something else that's shocking that you want to tell her or him, maybe you better make sure before you tell them that you're 100% correct about what it is you're telling them, right? Because I also found it interesting that there was that movie, I think we reviewed it or we talked about it, called Don't Look Up, where I
didn't review. You might have. I never seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
It was an allegory to COVID, and like, look, here's this threat. It's right in front of everybody, and nobody believes it. Even using that movie as an example, if you want that movie to come true, if this asteroid was actually to hit the Earth in 2032, you'd spend the past 8 years constantly revising the percentage every single day to the point where people aren't going to believe anything you have to say. On top of the fact that back in like the actual science world, it is 8 years away. If it was actually at the point of being a legitimate threat to the Earth 8 years from now, we'll figure out how to do something about it. We'll send a nuke, right? Yeah. And the nuke will wait for it in the trajectory. And when it gets near, the nuke will go off, give it a nudge, and it'll go another way, and it'll miss us by the time we get there.
Funny you say that, because the two little points that I have to add to this is, so, okay, we give NASA the benefit of the doubt. This asteroid's coming right at us. Who's the smartest man on the planet with a space company that could help stop this thing? Elon Musk. Oh boy. So now he puts his 2 cents in, and then I guess the left is open to having the world obliterated by an asteroid just so Elon can't save us. And my other and last point is, if this is an argument somehow for anybody down the road, well, if it is coming, I guess we don't need to worry about climate change anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we could just scrap all that. We're going to be dead in 8 years. Doesn't matter if we save the rainforest now.
It's going to get vaporized. Yeah, my last point will be, actually, we'll piggyback off what you were saying about Elon Musk, who is in the process, of course, of the whole Doge thing. They haven't gotten to NASA yet, but perhaps they will be getting to NASA soon in the next couple of months. I wonder if NASA's putting out some propaganda in the meantime to try and justify what it is they do, right? Like, when they go to sit down and, Elon Musk says, so what is it exactly that you guys do here, right? They're going to be like, well, you see, actually, we're here making these really important discoveries protecting planet Earth. You're the space guy. We need you to be on our side and work together with us and not slash our funding. I'm not even, again, Garrett's not here. I would have let him go with the nefariousness of NASA. I'm giving NASA the benefit of the doubt that they're not even doing anything nefarious. They're just a government organization that wants to justify its large budget and spend money and things like that. There could be an aspect of that here as well, where they're trickling something out because when Elon does get to them, he's in that world and he'll be like, you know what, they're right.
But there's
you need NASA to be looking out for asteroids while I focus on the Mars mission or whatever.
Right. There is something funny that it's a little group that Donald Trump created that everyone forgets about, and I'm pretty sure they would be the ones to handle this. Space Force.
Space Force. Yeah.
Don't need NASA. We got Space Force.
I also, I guess we would be in a position to do something, but this asteroid is trajected to, if it does hit the Earth, to hit like Africa and, South America. Does America have to pay for this? You know what I mean? Like, why don't they make a space program and deflect the asteroid? Now, if it's going to hit the Earth and kill all of us, it might make sense for us to just, the people who can do something, go do something about it. But, I would think that if it was an actual real scenario that with, actual percentage chance of hitting, the world will get together and figure something out and do something about it and pitch in, just like the world did at Chernobyl, right? After Chernobyl, went, melted down, years later, the world pitched in to help build the containment dome. Now, it's recent. I think it got built in like 2008, 2009, around like a new containment dome that's going to last 100 years and shield the inside of the plant. Like everyone kind of pitched in some money to help build that because it's going to benefit everybody. So like when there are actual real threats to everyone, governments even will agree
Yeah.
and spend some money to help fix it together because it actually does benefit everybody sometimes.
Well,
Come from the anti-government libertarian.
Though it'd be funny if they're like, well, if we just pay more in taxes, we
we'll
can
stop
this
the
asteroid.
Maybe we could get rid of all the nukes. That's something Trump floated out recently. He wants to denuclearize. Maybe we could get rid of them all by shooting them all at this asteroid, and then we don't build anymore. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Cap, you ready? Do you want to do any other USAID ones, or do you want me to start with the Global Citizen Festival that we went to?
Global Citizen Festival.
Sure. Okay, so if you are a longtime listener of the Two Do Men podcast, you might remember a time about 2 years ago where the captain and I went to a concert called the Global Citizen Festival, and we were so upset and irate that we did an entire episode afterwards about it. Captain and I were even about 5 feet away from Nancy Pelosi at this concert. Captain got a funny selfie of him with Nancy Pelosi nearby. Anyway, if you remember at the time, we were complaining about how we went there to go see Metallica primarily. We got tickets through my aunt who was in the business of the music industry, and we were so stoked to go see Metallica, and we were subjected. Metallica was headlining the event. We were subjected to hours of political lecturing,
woke nonsense,
left-wing points of view, and we obviously, Captain and I are in this world. We were in that world at the time. We knew something was up. They were talking about all these woke initiatives and whatnot. So with all this USAID stuff going on, I just thought about it again randomly, and I'm like, I wonder if USAID was providing any funding to the Global Citizen event, production, etc. So it took me a minute. It took me a little digging, but I found some stuff. And what I found, first of all, was a couple. So this is pretty general way. I couldn't find anything easily right off the bat, which made me even more skeptical. So I started rewording the question, searching USAID and Global Citizen Festival, until actually eventually, even the Google AI answer to questions gave me what I was looking for. And the Google AI said the U.S. Agency for International Development has provided funding to the Global Poverty Project, which organizes the Global Citizen Festival, and tells you what the Global Citizen Festival is. I did a little bit more digging and found out that the parent company is the Global Poverty Project. I found a couple links there that it's the Global Poverty Project is oddly not a very public-facing entity. Mm-hmm. It was hard to find a website of theirs. It very much has the appearance, at least to me, of like a shell company that then owns a subsidiary, and money is being passed through a shell company to a subsidiary to carry something out. I started searching the Global Citizen Project's website, and I found a recent article where they are irate about what's happening to USAID. Now, that article doesn't reference that they're getting money from USAID, but the person who wrote the article was very upset that this is happening to USAID and, it's getting exposed and whatnot. But then I did find an article from 2019 that references the 2019 event in Central Park. Again, they put together the whole concert there. And part of the article references it says top 3 announcements: U.S. bipartisan support for education. Senator Coons, Collins, and Young, together with Representative Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee Elliot Engel, called for support from all parties to ensure that Keeping Girls in School Act is adopted, to ensure that USAID is able to allocate funds specifically to the target 14 key barriers that keep girls out of school. I'm committed to moving this bill forward in the United States Congress through a markup or any other means, said Engel. And if you read a little bit more through, maybe I'll post this whole article. It's long. I'm not going to read the whole thing on the podcast. They reference a couple other USAID initiatives that were part of the 2019 event.
I'm sure that money made it. Yeah, I'm sure that money made it there.
USAID funded initiatives are making their way onto stage at the Global Citizen Festival that are being presented by Democrat members of Congress. Right now, again, I don't have like a smoking gun, but it's all right there for you if you don't believe me.
Wonder how much Nancy got paid to show up.
Exactly, right. Again, when Captain and I went there, Nancy Pelosi and fucking Chuck Schumer were on stage before Metallica, and I don't even remember at this point what they were talking about. It was something, but again, this is how the money flows. It goes through shell companies into an organization that pays musicians to then get young people to come see their show. And while you're at their show, you're subjected to hours
the brainwashing
of political propaganda that is left-wing, globalist, whatever, gobbledygook. And to be honest with you, white pill at the concert, Cap, people weren't really happy. about Chuck
No.
Schumer and
They booed the hell out of them.
but that is the type of business that USAID is in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in helping poor people or getting girls to school act like girls
Stay
don't
in
go to
school.
Girls don't go to school in America. Every fucking kid in America goes to some sort of school at some point. We're like, what even is that? So anyway, I mean, I could dig deeper into that, but there you have it. Everything. This USAID shit touches everything.
It's all fake and gay.
It's the Truman Show. What
It
do you
is.
got, Cap, on your end?
Well, a little IRS Doge action. Did you see the video? I should have sent it to you. The video of Trump just on stage reading off that the number of people at different ages of who passed away still receiving Social Security.
Yeah.
And there was one person that is 350 years old. He or she is older than America and is receiving Social Security.
Yeah, I saw somebody made a meme of that. Yeah.
And it's funny because like they really believe like they're ending Social Security. No, we are cleaning up Social Security. The left loves to hang Social Security is going to run out if you don't do this, do that. Bullshit. Social Security was never going to run out. You were just laundering the money out of there as fast as you could. And the more disturbing part is all the people between like 0 and 13 who are dead and receiving Social Security. So people who are not even eligible to receive Social Security are receiving Social Security.
0-year-olds, people who don't even exist yet.
People in other countries are receiving Social Security. And for some reason, the left is mad at this. It might be a tweet of the week of mine later, but it's a very bizarre thing to imagine if your bank called you up and said, "We found fraud on your account," and you were just like, "Nah, let it keep going. I'm good." You know, like no one in the history of banking has ever, of personal banking, has ever done that. But yet we have a political party that is defending that hill.
Yeah, it even is bizarre. Again, I'm a crazy libertarian. I would prefer that there is no Social Security because I think it's a scam. And if I could opt out, I would and make my own investments. But let's say you are one of these Democrats like Bernie Sanders who is invested in Social Security being around forever. We need to protect things from the billionaires, and we don't want them to be able to, people have 401ks and things like this. Okay. If we are actually auditing Social Security, which is what they're doing, and they're finding exactly what Captain said before, people who are 300 years old and are collecting Social Security, and we stop that from happening, doesn't that mean that Social Security is going to be funded better?
Yes.
And the pool of money that is actually going to be given to the people who actually need it, that the Bernie Sanderses of the world care about, right? Then there'll be more money for those actual people. In theory, the Bernie Sanders, he should be spearheading the charge. We want to make sure that every dollar that goes to Social Security is being paid out to the people who actually are on Social Security, and the rest is making sure that future generations are funded by Social Security, and that Social Security doesn't run out at some point in the future, right? This in theory, not my world, the libertarian world, and the world of Republican, Democrat should be a bipartisan issue. Yeah. There's this program that everyone who's not a libertarian likes. We want to make sure that it stays around forever because we think it's good, and we want to make sure that it's not, and none of it's being wasted because it's in, it might run out in the future. Right. We don't want that to happen.
And the funny thing I found out through a little bit of research, that they are making all these headlines. We can't give Elon Musk access to the IRS. This and he's gonna steal from us. Blah blah blah.
I'm going to my tweets of the week right after this, but yeah, there's so many that are pertinent here. Go ahead. Sorry.
Joe Biden gave 53 research students total access to the IRS database so they could collect data and learn about the IRS.
It never fails, man. Again, it's all targeted outrage. Let's jump the gun here and go to a couple tweets of the week, Cap. I think you do have one that's pertinent, but I have one that actually is pertinent to what we're talking about here.
I can look on
Adam
my
Schiff
phone.
and a chaotic good reply. So Adam Schiff says, Elon Musk is trying to access your personal bank and tax data. The world's richest man should not and cannot be able to snoop around your personal finances. Period. End of story. Chaotic Good replies and says, he's not trying to snoop around my personal finances. He's trying to snoop around yours because you get paid with taxpayer money and should be subjected to these types of audits on a regular basis to flush out obvious conflicts of interest. And again, this is like the first time that anything like that is happening, at least in my lifetime. And the allergy that the government is having to this, it really is wild because it's a pipe dream coming true for conservatives and libertarians that we're going to audit things and take a look at them. And for every phony Republican president we've had that has said something like this the past couple of years, it never happened. And now that it is happening, it is shocking to see the reaction that like, even if you do have someone in place that has the balls to actually do it, he's going to be met with the full force of like, resistance from the machine.
It comes down to two things. One, Trump derangement syndrome is a serious medical condition. The fact that you're okay with, your future funds of Social Security that you pay into, we have no choice. We have to pay into it. Like you said, you wish you could. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It's being misused. All right. You should want it to be fixed. But you're just mad that it's the guy you didn't vote for, so you'd rather the fraud continue. And secondly, the people who are screaming the loudest and meeting this with the most resistance, they're the people collecting from 350-year-olds, and they are the people collecting from 0-year-olds. Okay?
Probably. Yeah, you're right, probably.
Trump said that he wants to investigate, Congress and how they make all this money. I'm sure we're going to find some damning things. There's going to be a lot of under-the-table deals. There's going to be a lot of shell corporations, offshore accounts, a lot of insider trading, and I'm sure downright dirty things like collecting grandma's Social Security check 25 years after she passed away.
I am just, I agree 100% with you. I'm just kind of thinking too about what I said earlier and like the past couple of Republican conservative presidents that have either been running or in power, George W. Bush, all of them at one point or another probably said something along the lines of like actually conserving some money and taking a look at agencies and things like this, but none of them ever actually did anything about it.
They just spent money and started wars.
Right. And I'm sure that philosophically to some extent, they actually did some of them believe in these things, but once they understood what would happen if they went against them, they just whatever. And that kind of in of itself is another example of why this beast never stops growing, because if anyone ever dares to oppose any aspect of it, like you'll get impeached or run out of office, or JFK'd or whatever. And a lot of these, these fake conservatives over the years just were good little boys and did whatever the machine told them to do. So again, Trump 2.0 is a major white pill.
And you know what?
He's laser focused and he is doing something. Is it perfect? No. We'll see, but it's much better.
And you know what that's proof of? The deep state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They were aware. They were aware the deep state was going to mobilize against them. You'll be a one-term president. You'll be, something will happen to you, whatever. Everything else you want to accomplish. Maybe you come in with you have all these grand plans as the new President Bush, right? And you're going to do all these things. I'm like, you ain't fucking doing nothing.
Yeah.
If you try and oppose one tiny, if you like want to revise the price of stamps, we'll run your ass out of fucking office. That's probably exactly what happens. Anything else, Cap, on any other USAID things for perhaps we ship on to Ukraine? Okay.
Yeah, let's go to Ukraine because that has been interesting. I did not realize the magnitude of JD Vance's speech in Europe earlier this week.
He blew up some heads.
Boy, you would think he committed an act of war.
You would, right? I'm not going to play any of it here. I did post the thing in its entirety on our social medias. If you want to go check it out, I highly recommend you do. It was a great speech. And I apologize to him today on Twitter. I'm going to apologize to you again on the podcast. I'm sorry I doubted you, JD Vance. It really has been a great pick for vice president. It was a great speech. I can't. I just recommend everybody go and watch it. he pointed out everything that like people like us would be pointing out on podcasts the past couple of years. Hey, we're here supposed to be defending democracy, and you guys are like
said that.
canceling elections, and the German, in Germany, we're censoring freedom of speech, and like we want, and he's up there talking about how we want to make peace, and he's being met with like 2 claps in the whole audience. Like everyone in the audience, he's making great point after great point. Everyone in the audience is like not liking anything he has to say. I think it will go down, Cap. That speech in particular is a very historic speech, especially if he does become president in 2028, and we'll see. But
that speech was so good. I have so many new perspectives on what's going on in Ukraine and how things are going, and now that we have an administration change going on, like, and we're finally ready to talk peace and all this stuff, and it's not shocking, but it is shocking that like people don't understand that like if you want like to make peace, right, we would have to talk to Russia.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is like a shocking thing that people are learning.
Reminds me of the Game of Thrones quote by Jon Snow, where we only make peace with our enemies.
With your enemies, yeah.
Jon Snow went north of the wall to make peace with the wildlings, and the whole Night's Watch was pissed off. How could you go and make peace with them? They've been our enemy for thousands of years. He's like, yeah, we only make peace with enemies. We don't make peace with people who are on our side.
Yeah. And the most like I know Europe has sent some money, but who has paid this bill for this proxy war that has killed hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Ukrainians? It's been America. America's sending guns and ammo and bombs and tanks and whatever they could send, and they're sending all this money. It's been just a windfall of cash for Zelenskyy and Ukraine. And now all of a sudden that we're going to talk peace, Europe wants to be involved in the peace talks. The media demands Zelenskyy be involved in the peace talks. Right. Excuse me, but shut your fucking mouth.
Right. We were setting the stage, the tone, the policy before, and Zelenskyy was very much so obviously a puppet. But now we're still doing the same thing in a sense, right? We're just swinging our dick around in a different way.
Yes.
They're like, no. Zelenskyy has to be part of it. I want to also make the point, I have seen the most disrespectful chatter, commentary, vibes coming out of the Europeans, the Ukrainians, and Zelenskyy towards America now. All those years of giving them hundreds of billions of dollars at this point, I will give Zelenskyy credit. When the money was flowing in, he was actually very appreciative. Yeah. I've seen him many times like thanking the American people for putting up with this and helping and whatnot. But as soon as the cash flow stopped, his entire vibe and
demeanor,
and now they like hate us and they're talking shit about us and whatnot. That's
because the gravy train's over.
1 second of like gratitude, like extra gratitude from them. As soon as we stop paying them, they have no gratitude whatsoever anymore. Imagine you gave somebody a gift over a couple of years of $200 billion. And the moment you're like, I don't have any more money to send you and I kind of want to stop this, they're like, fuck you, motherfucker. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, am I going to get any leeway for all the money I just gave you for 2 years? $200 billion gets you no leeway in Europe or Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thought. It really is.
And it's insane that the only reason Europe and Zelenskyy want a say in these peace talks is so they can give unrealistic demands, prolong the peace talks, anger Putin to the point that he's going to walk away from. And I could promise you, if let's say we let this happen and Europe sat at the negotiation table, their goal would be to piss off Vladimir Putin. He walks away, and then they blame it on Trump.
Tank the negotiations.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody just needs to Zelenskyy the most, bro. The money is over. You either listen to us and you get what we give you, or Putin takes over. Those are your options. That's it.
It's the old, as I say, just keep what you stole and just go away and leave us alone at this point. We won't even come after you. Just leave us alone. And Cap, there actually is precedent of Europe tanking a peace deal already. The first peace deal with Boris Johnson. Ukraine And Putin, Zelensky and Putin had in paper on, they had the
yes,
talks.
I remember. This was a while ago, right?
Right at the beginning of the war, about 2 months into the war. They had talks in Turkey, I believe it was, and the Russians showed the piece of paper that had been initialed by the Ukrainian delegate agreeing to the peace. Then Boris Johnson, acting on behalf of Joe Biden, goes over to Ukraine, walks around on television with Zelensky in downtown, and basically tells him, "We're going to back you now, full tilt. You're not rip up that peace deal, and you're going to war full tilt against Russia because we wanted the proxy war against Russia."
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, there is precedent of them already tanking one peace deal. So, yes, it actually is smart to completely cut everyone out of the deal by Trump at the moment. And they are very early on in the early stages of negotiations. I have been. I wish I had more to tell you that they've reached a peace, but they haven't. But they're at the very inception phases where they're just agreeing to, we have to
figure something.
No. We have to open up lines of communication again because there are literally none.
None.
Biden did not speak to Putin for all those years. Every Moscow Russian diplomat was thrown out of the United States. So there is no one to talk to.
Yeah.
There is no people working in offices in Washington from Russia. There are no people from the United States working in offices in Moscow that could then go and be like an emissary. So they're just setting up the lines of communication again while they're starting peace negotiations.
Isn't that so interesting that, anybody in the Biden administration be like, well, yeah, we care about Ukraine and their interests and this and that. So then why did you kick out all of the Russian diplomats? Why did you bring, you're just, forget about inefficiency, investigate that. That was set up to fail from day one. They were setting us up for World War III, no matter how you cut it. And they failed. And now they're mad that they don't get their war.
Yeah, they are. This will play in later to a question I have for you and something I found.
Okay.
But let's make one more point about JD Vance, the speech he was making. He pointed out how the Romanian election got canceled because of Russian disinformation. And now, if you know anything about the Romanian election, it was the right-wing party who won the Romanian presidential election recently. The entire election got annulled. Right, because there was there was Russian disinformation. The right-wing party is not like a crazy Nazi party or anything like that. The right-wing party was just in favor of making peace with Russia, and they were opposed to what I found out, a new NATO base being built in Romania on the coast. If you look at the map and you find out where the coast of Romania is, it's essentially right across the Black Sea from where Sevastopol.
Yeah, I was going to say it's on the Black Sea.
Right, and so NATO wants to build a naval base, a gigantic military installation, very close to Sevastopol. In a sense, a counterpoint. We have our base there, they got their base there, and we can fight against it. And the Romanian right-wing party is like, no. We don't want to make any more instigations. We want to end war. We don't want to be caught up in this, even though they're a part of NATO and all that stuff. No, that can't happen, right? So I was listening to Mike Benz, and he was talking about how all the USAID money went into Romania to make sure it propped up journalists and the talking points against the right-wing party, and the right-wing party still ended up winning.
Yet somehow Russia was able to spread disinformation with all the USAID money. Wow. Anyway, Russia. Maybe we should move to Russia. They seem pretty powerful, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so that was just one little tidbit I wanted to add that I remember I wrote down here. Okay, so going back to JD Vance, he's been killing it lately. I got a tweet by him that I wanted to read. Him and Trump had some banger tweets this past week, but I'm not even going to cover the banger tweets because there's just way too much. JD Vance has a quote tweet of someone else earlier today. So I first want to read this guy's tweet, Niall Ferguson. He says he's kind of tweeting in response to JD Vance's speech in Germany the other day. He says, this will not stand. This aggression against Kuwait. George H.W. Bush on August 5th. Full quote from John Meacham's biography. Future history students will be asking why this stopped being a reaction of a Republican president to the invasion of a friendly country. So this guy, Ferguson, is quoting George Bush saying, we're not going to stand for Iraq invading Kuwait. And he's making the point of, remember when Republicans used to actually stand up to bullies back in the day? Now the Republicans don't want to do that anymore. JD Vance sees this, and like I said, JD Vance, I owe him an apology. Give me a moment here because I'm going to read his full tweet. It's great. He says, this is moralistic garbage, which is unfortunately the rhetorical currency of the globalists because they have nothing else to say. For 3 years, President Trump and I have made two simple arguments. First, the war wouldn't have started if President Trump was in office. Second, that neither Europe nor the Biden administration nor the Ukrainians had any pathway to victory. This was true 3 years ago. It was true 2 years ago. It was true last year, and it was true today. And for 3 years, the concerns of people who were obviously right were ignored. What is Niall's actual plan for Ukraine? Another aid package? Is he aware of the reality on the ground of the numerical advantage of the Russians, or of the depleted stock of the Europeans, or their even more depleted industrial base? Instead, he quotes from a book about George H.W. Bush from a different historical period and a different conflict. That's another currency of these people. Reliance on irrelevant history. Time out. Reliance on irrelevant history. Now, JD Vance doesn't reference World War II. Neither was Niall Ferguson. But remember the point that Darryl Cooper made, how anytime you want to oppose a war, World War II is brought up as some sort of example as to why we have to be in the current war we're in. JD Vance doesn't reference that directly, but he understands that concept of how, like, anytime there's any conflict, some other irrelevant story from the past is brought up to justify why we should be in this war right now, even if it makes absolutely no sense. On top of that, like, always the only lesson you are allowed to learn from any war is that we need more war. There's never like another lesson you're allowed to learn from any war from these people. Let's continue. President Trump is dealing with reality, which means dealing with the facts. And here are some facts. Number one, while our Western European allies' security has benefited greatly from the generosity of the United States, they pursue domestic policies on migration and censorship that offend the sensibilities of most Americans, and defense policies that assume continued over-reliance. Number two, Russians have a massive numerical advantage in manpower and weapons in Ukraine, and that advantage will persist regardless of further Western aid packages. Again, this aid is currently flowing. Number three, the United States retains substantial leverage over both parties to the conflict. Number four, ending the conflict requires talking to the people involved in starting it and maintaining it. That's what you were saying before. We have to talk. We make peace with the enemy. That's the only way you talk. That's the people you talk to. Number five, the conflict has placed and continues to place stress on the tools of American statecraft, from military stockpiles to sanctions and so much else. We believe the continued conflict is bad for Russia, bad for Ukraine, and bad for Europe. But most importantly, it is bad for the United States. Given the above facts, we must pursue peace, and we must pursue it now. President Trump ran on this, he won on this, and he's right about this. It is lazy, ahistorical nonsense to attack as appeasement every acknowledgement that America's interest must account for the realities of the conflict. That interest, not moralism or historical illiteracy, will guide President Trump's policy in the weeks to come, and thank God for that. I want to stand up and clap. I see all these arguments and debates and, what about it? Not even what about it, but like Putin talking points. Like, people just insult you, but they never make an actual argument or point about anything they're saying. The fucking vice president of the United States just went on a tear and not only like slam dunked on this guy, but gave you like actual real world what is happening. Here's some detail. Here's why we are opposing. Here's some nuance and context.
Excuse me. I can't tell you how many tweets I've seen. Just when you realize Trump's a Russian agent, everything he does makes sense. When you realize Putin has something on Trump.
What? Like, what are you saying? Like, what is it? What is the argument you're trying to make? What are those people trying to make? They're not actually saying any argument or giving you any context. They're just insulting you. And then they're like using the insult as if they've just made some sort of argument. You're the reason why we should.
The reason. Okay, so even if I'm a Putin puppet, we should still send money to Ukraine.
But again, like, you're a Putin puppet. That's all they say. Like, they don't actually make an argument as to why you're a Putin puppet. What is a Putin puppet? You know what I mean? Like, it is very lazy. So JD Vance is an impressive guy, I have to say.
He is, and this leads to something that we've talked about a lot. Like, the people who are just screaming Putin puppet are the people who are losing their seat at the table. And the people who can react and articulate like JD Vance are going to be at the head of the table.
Rise to the top. Yeah, I agree. All right. I have we're sticking in Ukraine. We're going to get a little historical now, and we're going to talk about one of the things that's trickled down from some of the discussions that are ongoing. Captain, I sent this to you and Garrett the other day, but I got it from Mario Nafal here. And Mario says, U.S. troop withdrawal from Eastern Europe under discussion. The U.S. is reportedly negotiating the withdrawal of troops from NATO countries that joined after 1990, including Poland, the Baltics, Romania, and more. As of 2022, the U.S. has over 100,000 troops in Europe, with 10,500 troops stationed in Poland, 4,000 in Lithuania, 3,300 in Hungary, and 900 in Bulgaria. This move could leave Eastern Europe exposed to Russian influence as part of the ongoing Ukraine war talks. Only U.S. bases in Germany and the U.K. are reportedly exempt. Now, this isn't agreed to. This is just a concept or idea that's probably trickling out of some of the discussions that are being had between the Russians and the Trump administration. When I read this, I couldn't actually believe it, to be honest with you. This is such a white pill for me. Understanding the past couple of years, I've done a lot of reading on the Soviet Union and the history. We've had Scott Horton on. He just wrote the book Provoked. If you know anything about the scenario, again, there is the fall of the Soviet Union, but before that, the negotiations around them pulling out of Eastern Europe and them pulling out of Germany. After World War II, Germany was split in half into Western and Eastern Germany. The West, the democratic powers, in a sense, ruled over the West. The Soviets ruled over the East. As the Soviet Union was starting to fall apart, they're like, you know what, we're going to back off and we're going to let Germany reunify into one country, the country that it is today. And part of the agreement was that NATO would not extend itself to the east 1 inch past where it was at the moment. On top of that, part of the negotiation was that no American NATO troops would be in Eastern Europe, right? They would stay on the western part of Germany, and that's as far as they would go. And we'll pull our Soviet soldiers out of Germany and Eastern Europe, and eventually the Soviet Union fell apart. This was such a white pill to me because it tells me that the Trump administration actually read a book finally and understands some aspects of history, and they are basically putting forward that original deal from fucking 40 years ago at this point. And if this is able to actually happen, I'm not even saying that it is going to happen. I'd probably say it's not going to happen. Right. But if it is able to happen, I could see it being the foundation for like a actual long lasting peace with Russia, where our administration, in a sense, admits to the Russians, yeah, this crazy deep state in America has wanted to get rid of you for the past 40 years. And they just went back on every promise, every deal that they made to the Russians. We're not saying that you guys are good guys. We're not pulling all of our soldiers out of Europe in general, but we are going to honor that original promise we made to the Soviet Union in 1990. Because we actually want peace with you, and we're going to prove it by holding ourselves to the original standard. One more moment here, because I thought I better do my homework. And anytime you want to know about the history of something like this, you grab Scott Horton's book, Provoked. And if you're interested in this, time period, it's right at the beginning of the book. And the reason why I want to read this is because anytime you cite that promise that the West and the United States made to the Soviet Union, people will go like, no, there was no promise written down. They never discussed that. It didn't happen. That's all bullshit. That's all Russian propaganda that they're saying. There was never any guarantee made that we weren't going to go into Eastern Europe after the Soviet Union. Blah blah blah. All right. So on page 9 of Provoked, so Scott puts it right at the very beginning. He says on February 9th, this is in 1990. In meetings in Moscow, Baker, that's James Baker, who was the Secretary of State at the time. Worth noting that James Baker was the head of the CIA the past couple of years under President Biden. He was one of the few guys who actually did talk to the Russians during the whole war. Baker promised Gorbachev, that's Mikhail Gorbachev, the last guy in charge of the Soviet Union, 6 times that if the Soviet Union would withdraw their troops and allow German reunification under America's NATO alliance, they would not expand it. We understand the need for assurances to the countries in the East, Baker told him. If we maintain a presence in Germany that is part of NATO, there would be no extension of NATO's jurisdiction for forces of NATO 1 inch to the east. Raising the specter of an independent nuclear-armed Germany, Baker asked Gorbachev, would you prefer to see a unified Germany outside of NATO, independent, and with no U.S. forces, or would you prefer a unified Germany to be tied to NATO with assurances that NATO's jurisdiction would not shift 1 inch eastward from its present position? Gorbachev answered, certainly any extension of the zone of NATO would be unacceptable. Baker replied, we agreed with that. There it is right there. On top of that, you could also see how they already were kind of like trying to trick the Russians. They were like, well, do we want to let Germany reunify and not be part of NATO? Then they're going to have nuclear weapons. What happens if the Nazis come back? Right, in 1990, they're
still using it, yeah.
Fear-mongering the Russians a little bit. So you better let better let Germany reunify and be part of NATO, because then we'll keep our thumb on the Germans and make sure that they don't become an independent nuclear-armed Germany. Anyway, one last point. Referring to joint negotiations between East and West Germany, the U.S., U.K., France, and the USSR, the Secretary reiterated, we consider that the consultations and discussions in the framework of the 2+4 mechanism should give a guarantee that the reunification of Germany will not lead to the enlargement of NATO's military organization to the east. And that's exactly what happened.
I was going to say, it's exactly what it did.
Exactly what happened in the years later. It's exactly what Trump purportedly is proposing of undoing here, if this is true. And if you want to say that's just words in a book, Scott Horton made that up, and it's not, he just wrote down those words and it didn't actually happen. Well, one of the things about what's great about this book is that half of the book is actually the sources Scott used to write the book. And on the same page, footnote number 17, where did he get this? Is footnote 70. So where did he get this from? From a book called Svetlana Cervenka and Tom Blanton, NATO Expansion, What Gorbachev Heard. He also got from the National Security Archive, December 12th, 2017, from Robert M. Gates' own book, From the Shadows, The Ultimate Insider Story of 5 Presidents and How They Won the Cold War. So he got it from Robert Gates' own book. He got it from the National Security Archive, and he got it from another book that's Russians wrote this book about it. So again, it's not like he just made this up and put words on the book in the book. This actually happened. So that being said, if Trump is able to pull this off, I think I'm super optimistic. It could lead to like actual peace with Russia long term, like long term.
Well, if you think about it, I mean,
if the Europeans calm down.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, world peace means peace amongst the world. We're friends with China. We're friends with Russia. We're friends with Iran. We're friends with, Ukraine, Israel, Africa. You know what I mean? Like, that's what world peace would be. That's what world peace would look like. Yeah,
it is. It's just cool to even have that be in the discussion somehow. Maybe I'm making, again, I'm not confident that this is actually going to happen, but it's cool that it is.
Don't underestimate Trump.
Sure. All right. I have a question for you I wanted to ask, which is going to lead to something new that I found. Why is it that you think they are so goddamn interested and hell-bent on getting rid of Russia? And by they, I mean the deep state, the West,
right?
All this stuff, all this lying, everything that happened. It's very obvious they want to get rid of Russia. Why?
I mean, a number of reasons. One, it's probably outside of China, the only superpower that if they wanted to put us in our place. It's, they're one of the few people that could actually challenge our kingdom on the hill if they wanted to. 2, I'm sure they are embedded with all the secrets of America, all the dirty secrets, all the terrible things. So I would have to assume it's 1, military might, and 2 would be just the knowledge of the dark secrets.
Okay. Yeah, those are all good points. They're all good theories.
I can't imagine. Maybe I don't know. Maybe oil and resources from Russia.
All very plausible, likely reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's the question is something I've thought a lot about the last couple of years and going back a long time. What is it? Why do they have such?
Do we just need a bad guy?
Like again, they do business with other bad guys everywhere else. Like, what is it about Russia that they hate so much that they are so goddamn focused on getting rid of Russia as it is? And it just so happened that a couple of years ago, I came across this theory that I had never heard of before. And it is called the geographical pivot of history. And it was really a term in it that caught my eye called the world island. So the world island redirected me here. it was really the world island that I saw this term. I'm like, that sounds like an interesting term. What does that mean? And it redirected me here to this theory called the geographical pivot of history. So the geographical pivot of history is an article submitted by Halford John Mackinder in 1904 to the Royal Geographic Society that advances his heartland theory. In this article, Mackinder extended the scope of geopolitical analysis to encompass the entire globe. He defined Afro-Eurasia as the world island and its heartland as the area east of the Volga, south of the Arctic, west of the Yangtze, and north of the Himalayas. Due to its strategic,
hold on. I'm trying to.
There's going to be a map. There's going to be a map.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Due to its strategic location and natural resources, Mackinder argued whoever controlled the heartland could control the world. What is the area he's talking about? He's talking about the pivot area. Where is the pivot area, according to Mackinder? It is right at the center of Russia, south of the Arctic, east of the Volga, west of the Yangtze, north of the steppe in Kazakhstan. So the world island comprised the interlinked continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe. This was the largest, most populous, and richest of all possible land combinations. The heartland lays at the center of the world island, again stretching. Anyway, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is an actual theory. At the same time, I read that Hitler was aware of, and it might have something to do with why he was so dead set on pressing into Russia and invading it, because he was heard of this theory, following this theory, believed in this theory to some extent.
Well, Hitler
a geopolitical theory. So I'm again that if you control this geographical space at the world island, consider the world island like all the Western continents. Like in theory, they're
Europe, Asia,
they're all continents, but it's
Middle
kind of
East,
one giant island on planet Earth. And if you control the center of that island, you could, in theory, control the entire planet. That is the theory. So I
guess from a defense standpoint, with resources and all that,
it's like the intersection of the planet. Like all the roads, if you were to make highways that crisscross everywhere, they would all crisscross in that area. There's resources, all the things you mentioned before. I wonder if people in like they follow this theory, and that's why they're so dead set on removing Russia from controlling that area, because they look at it as, well, Russia controls the region that would be able to give you the power to rule over the world. At the moment, they're so fucked up, they haven't been able to like harness the power of that region. So we want to make sure they're never able to harness the power of that region. And not just that, we want to get them the fuck out of there so that we can harness the power of that region and we can, rule over the world in a sense. Like I think they might have actually
very conspiratorial. I like that.
Read this. It's just a political theory. It doesn't mean it's real or anything like that. It's a theory of a guy 100 years ago.
My only issue for that is over the past, since the fall of the Soviet Union, let's say, right? Maybe even at the birth of the birth of the Soviet Union. If this is true, why has there not been a full court press to absolutely dominate this area and make it? Because from a military standpoint, I understand this idea of a world's island, right? Like if you control the center of that, you have to go through Asia, you have to go through Siberia, you have to go through the Middle East, north, south, east, and west. You have millions of miles to travel through different countries that will be defending you if you control this. The only thing that like really bugs me about it, and I've just learned about this tonight, and it's definitely an interesting topic.
By the way, I sprang this on Captain. I told him I was going to ask something, but I didn't tell him what it was. It
would have been in Russia's best interest at any point in time, if this is real, to like, all right, 100% resources going into this.
Yeah, I see your point. The thing is that Russia has been a global power forever.
But not the global power.
No, but they have been a global power. And at the same time, they haven't had their shit together, right? Like they were the Soviet Union. They were a global superpower. They were controlling that area. They were a threat to taking over the entire planet when they were the Soviet Union. But at the same time, they had this central command communism version of top-down authoritarianism that doesn't work.
That didn't work.
Right? So like they have the geographical advantage of ruling over the area, but they didn't have their shit together in order to like use it effectively. If a capitalist Western empire, global hegemony like the United States were able to rule over that area, boy, I mean, like, the possibilities are limitless. If you can't even get Russia out of there just because, like, yeah, they don't have their shit together, but because they have the advantage of ruling over the island, they could, like, put up enough of a, they could be enough of a thorn in our side. You just keep fucking with them enough over the years that they're never able to get their shit together to really harness the power.
While they're, as long as they're on their back foot, they're never going to get it.
To get the, I don't know. I was just, these are the thoughts.
Interesting.
Again, this could be the rants of a madman over here. Me and McKinder, but just something I thought of. I was telling the captain that I read about, like, this term "World Island" popped up on Twitter like 2 days ago. And then, like, 5 minutes later, I read it in Scott Horton's book 5 minutes later. And those were the first 2 times I'd ever heard of it. And I'm like, how is it that I heard
it's a sign
term within 5 minutes? It could just be a coincidence, right? But within 5 minutes of each other, I heard this term for the first time. And there was just something about the term World Island I thought was interesting. So anyway, interesting theory, interesting topic. Perhaps some big bad power source in the West has read this, and that is the MO that they're following.
That's where the world monarch lives.
Maybe. All right, let's go on to our tweets of the week.
Tweets. You see now that I marked the one a video.
Yeah. Can we start with that one?
If you want.
Yeah. Hang on, let's do that.
So
1 second, I'll get it ready. But go ahead.
He's the CEO of a tech company, I believe. I don't remember his name, but he explains this very well. As you know, Skaggs and I, we're generally nice people.
Thanks.
We do enjoy watching the left melt down, but this guy is right, and he towards the end he has a very good point to make.
Okay,
so let's play.
Look, what I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's 2 revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is they mean you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
I think very good point. And he said something very smart where he said they box themselves into this corner and nothing can be solved, right? They just, because they're against Elon, they're going to box themselves in and kill themselves and not actually produce any results for anyone to help anything. You know, it's just this blind rage of resistance, and it's going to be their demise. And I'm here for it. Don't get me wrong. But like, we are watching a political party commit suicide. People we've known for a long time have these convoluted, points of views and ideas and ideologies that are only gonna hurt you. You know what I mean? Like I said when we first started talking about Doge and stuff, like, it doesn't matter who you voted for. It's all our money. We are all the victims.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen a couple people make the point of, like, the Democratic Party is the oldest party, like surviving party in the world, which it is. And like, it's not good that it's going to kill itself. That, like, we need to, like, reform the Democratic Party. And it needs to be, like, rational again and common sense again. And then there could be a debate between, like we've talked about before, like, we go back to the table as, like, common sense, normal folk. And, like, the fact that they're not changing whatsoever is concerning and dangerous.
Sounds like to me they gotta die.
I don't disagree that it is concerning and dangerous that they haven't learned any lessons and they seem intent on suiciding themselves. But then I just think back to, like, I'm here for it. And I don't view, like, the two teams as, like, that they have to exist.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party will go extinct. Maybe the Libertarian Party takes its place. Maybe no one does. And then there's, like, the Republicans are all there is, but then there's, like, a spectrum between within the Republicans of, like, more America first types, more Israel first types, or something like that. And that's not great, but that's way better than what we've had the past couple of years.
No, it is.
I don't see why, like, people have to get so sentimental about. Some people do,
because
why do you gotta get so sentimental about one party losing. Like,
they bought the propaganda. Their brains got scrubbed, cleaned, and washed, and it's blue team versus red team, and it is crazy to think, like, they haven't learned anything.
Yeah, it is.
Like that one chick on maybe Fox or whatever. You guys sent it in the group chat. I forget her name, the black girl, where, like, basically she, like, well, the election happened because people aren't educated. You're still going to go down the path of Americans are stupid because we voted for Trump.
Did you see?
Okay.
You see the SNL 50?
No, and you know what? I was getting into SNL, and they made fun of Trump plenty, but they made fun of every president plenty. I'm done now.
Sure. What they did, though, was Tom Hanks, of all people, dressed up as a Trump supporter and went on, like, a why they're dumb, I'm a dumb racist tirade sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy fuck.
It fell flat.
No. They still have not learned.
Yeah.
The basket of deplorables, calling the other team, calling every person in America who likes Trump racist. Like, they keep losing and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. They keep insulting half of the population and calling them
over
racist.
Half now, half,
and things like that after they've lost. Like, that hasn't worked, and they just keep doing it.
Dave Smith had a great quote on his last podcast. They were talking about SNL 50 and how, like, just Hollywood and the media and the mainstream just still don't get it because they haven't learned anything. And they're like, yeah, well, the future is podcasting, but we're just going to take people like Rachel Maddow and give her a podcast. It's still not going to work because your message is garbage. Right. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, back in the day when Jay Leno went off the air and whoever got it after Jay Leno just got that audience, right? Because, like, this is who was tuning in on that time slot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not like that anymore. Yeah, it's the message. It's not
just a problem of technology. It's more than that. It's the message behind it. Yeah. To a certain extent, like putting it on cable news at a certain time of the day, every day with like 5-minute segments and commercials every split second. It's not a good format technologically anymore. Having a long thought out conversation like me and you do, or Joe Rogan has, is way better. But again, you can't then just take, it's not a one-to-one. You can't just take Rachel Maddow and put her on the Joe Rogan experience and be like, now she's going to be just as popular as Joe Rogan.
She's going to have 11 million listeners every week.
No, that's not how it works. Okay, so speaking of which, people not learning their lesson, I have an example of that here with my next tweet, which is by Claire Lemon. I think she's an editor for, I forget what, I guess for, I forget what exactly. I think like an Australian newspaper, but liberal leftist. She goes, people are reacting to Trump's betrayal of Ukraine with disgust because it violates noblesse oblige, the understanding that with great power comes great responsibility. Where have you heard that before, Cap?
Yeah, Spider-Man.
In chimps, leaders who fail to act on this duty tend to suffer gruesome ends. The article goes on to talk about how chimps will kill the leader if the leader doesn't do good things for the group of chimps. So, number one, she's in a sense making some sort of veiled threat to Trump, saying like we should kill Trump because he's not doing the right thing. Number two, do you even understand what you're saying, Claire Lamont? You are comparing yourself and people like you to chimps.
Yeah.
Like you're self-owning yourself because with your Trump derangement syndrome. Humans are not chimps. I'm not saying I like chimps. They're cool. They are intelligent. They have a really interesting hierarchy and social structure where they communicate with each other. They are not human beings.
Yeah.
We are way fucking smarter than they are. We are way more sophisticated than they are. We have a way bigger brain. We have way more in-depth thought process. But here you are reducing yourself down to the level of a chimp.
Caveman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say she's right. Let's say this is how things should go. So you mean to tell me Joe Biden did everything he was asked of? You mean to tell me Joe Biden was a good leader? You mean to tell me that the chimps wouldn't have? I know I can't say this, YouTube, but you know,
we can't though.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, so you mean to tell me that
this is supposed to be the liberal here?
Yeah.
The liberal is reducing herself down to chimp, and then let's go and murder the leader because he don't do things we like.
And once again we talked
person. Yay.
Once again we talked about this before. The betrayal of Ukraine. What betrayal? We paid them $200 billion and we told them it's over.
You don't know them nothing. The fuck out of here, man. There were a couple tweets today that made my blood boil.
Dude, I told you, I sent you the snap of the tweet. I was sitting on my break and Twitter got so retarded that I decided to go back to work.
Yeah, it's smart. I saw a tweet by some Ukrainian, like, basically saying, if the Russians invaded Alaska and then, the American president negotiated away half of Alaska to Putin and, blah, 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 like, would you Americans be... and he said it in a really insulting way, like, you pussies, would you be, he didn't say this, but, like, would you guys be happy about it? And I didn't send it, but I wanted to be like, the thing is that then it's going to happen, motherfucker, because we're the empire, right? And Russia ain't invading Alaska because if they did, we would turn their shit upside down, right? You guys are the welfare queen that we had to come and save, or we had to use as our fucking bitch in a proxy war to try and weaken Russia, right? Yeah. So it's like not even a perfect comparison.
Should just responded like, would Ukraine give us $200 billion to fight off Russia?
We didn't need to because we're the big bad of the world, right? So like, get out of here with the
losers,
the insults now to Americans because we've overthrown our government. And decided we don't want a war anymore. All right, let's go to the next tweet of El Capitan.
I think the rest of mine are pretty much just funny satire. So this is a topic I do want to talk about. I would like Garrett to be here. Yeah. Elon Musk looking for the gold at Fort Knox, ... and it's gone. Yeah. I'm going to straight up say my point of view. We will get into this story. I really hope there is a live feed of a tour of Fort Knox. I don't think there is a I think I have more gold around my neck than they have in all of Fort Knox.
I have a really interesting insight on that, but I'm going to play it close to the chest and wait for Garrett to come on and something to happen there before I give it. I think it'll be a little bit different than your guys, but we'll keep an eye on that. Definitely. Gold at Fort Knox. Interesting. My next tweet is from Anomaly, who's really smart. I like him a lot. At Legendary Energy. He says, when Russia was communist and was slaughtering Russians, America partnered with them. Now that they replaced communism with Christ-centric nationalism, our press, Democrats, and fake opposition Republicans want to replace their leader. They prefer Bolshevik Lenin to Putin. I thought that was a great fucking point, right? Like, America aligned itself with Stalin and the Soviet Union in certain wars and supported them. And now that's
that tweet says way more than what it's saying.
Yes, it does.
100%. Yeah.
I've seen
that's fantastic.
I've seen a couple of people make points the past couple weeks too of, like them say, like how could, like imagine back in World War II if, and FDR had demanded that Churchill pay back America for the money we gave him.
Okay, good.
We did. We actually did, though. Like people are citing World War II as the load-bearing myth or whatever it's called, right? That Darryl Cooper said. They cite the World War II to like justify the war that we're in currently, but then they don't even cite it correctly. At the time, like, yes, we did the Lend-Lease Act with the Soviet Union, where we lent them munitions and tanks and things like that. Lend-Lease. They had to pay us back. The UK had to pay us back. We invaded Greenland and took that from them at the time because of certain countries. So like it doesn't even make sense. Like at the time, like yes, we aided the Allies in World War II before we joined the war, but it came with like promise to repay the United States after, and we followed up and got the money back.
And now, God forbid, if you ask for any money back, you're a right-wing extremist.
Yes. All right, next one, Cap.
Oh, this is my favorite. Okay, from Christy Jackson. Trump is still in Florida. He spent 17 of his first 30 days on vacation. Meanwhile, inflation is soaring and Americans are struggling. Zero focus, zero leadership. This is wild to say. We have found, what is it, $92 billion in waste in the first 30 days. Zero focus and zero leadership. This man discontinued pennies at the fucking Super Bowl. He was working at the Super Bowl, okay? And where was this energy when Joe Biden spent every weekend of the past 4 years at his home in Delaware, lounging at the beach?
I told you before today,
it's getting boring.
This is boring. These tweets don't work anymore. They're so fake. And they don't they don't even bother me anymore. It's just like, I'm glad trillions of these at this point, and it's boring.
I'm glad you brought that up because when you said that to me, it made me think of a question, and I'll ask it here now. So, for the most part, we believe, and we have no evidence. There is evidence out there, but the two men do not have it. Adam Schiff is a pretty corrupt individual. We could agree on that, right?
Sure.
Kash Patel is probably going to fuck his shit up, right? Kash Patel believes Adam Schiff is a criminal, and funny enough, Adam Schiff was outside of the FBI building protesting his confirmation. Adam Schiff is still on Twitter screaming about how we need to remove Trump. Bro, your goose is cooked. My question to you is like, do you think he really thinks like these tweets are going to help him? Like, what's the point anymore now?
Yeah, I do. I think sometimes people get atrophy and they don't learn from their mistakes or learn how to react. Like if I was Adam Schiff right now, I'd be packing my bug out bag. Right?
Yeah, I'd be going underground.
Right, like at any moment, I'm not saying I go underground right this moment. Maybe the deep state makes a comeback and saves him. I'm not saying that's impossible. But I'd have contingency plans laid. Like, remember you watched Breaking Bad, like Walter White had his whole plan set. Like at any moment,
pulling up the vacuum store.
Any moment he had to call it the vacuum store and bug out. Like I hope Adam Schiff, you did something like that, man, because you might need something like that soon. Like that's what he should be focused on right now. Instead, he's actually pointing more attention at himself, perhaps even making it worse for himself.
Perfectly put. Because I look at like people like Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff, and I'm like, do you really think your tweet is going to be the kickoff to removing Trump from the White House after 30 days?
I think they do think that. Yes, I think they are operating in an old world that doesn't exist anymore, and they still keep throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks, and it doesn't, and they are blind and they're not seeing that the shit ain't sticking. I'm also not going to give them any more advice. Let them find out. AFO as they say. All right, we got a couple more. A lot of tweets this week.
We found some.
Where am I at? Okay,
you're on your last one.
Yep. Here it is. Oh wait, can you not see it? Why is it not working?
Nothing came up.
Oh, here it is. Okay. It's one of these. Napoleon Bonaparte depreciator says USAID, but we use it to fund right-wing revolutions. It's the guy standing in front of the whiteboard.
Yep.
That one was
it's a Mad Men meme.
Yeah, the Mad Men. It reminded me of we actually do enact Project 2025.
Yes.
It's like USAID, but we use it to fund right-wing revolutions. I thought that was pretty funny. I see why it's not sharing. I did the wrong button. Sorry here, folks. You would think all these it's like a year or two into using StreamYard, and I think I'd have figured it out. But apparently not. Okay, where were we at last? I think we're here.
It's my last one.
Last tweet, yeah.
Last tweet of the night. From now, this guy's not big at all. So shout out to Samuel Fisher. They're outraged about the Gulf of America, yet they made us rename military bases, sports teams, and syrup.
Yeah.
Well put, my friend. Well put. We literally, in the name of anti-racism, we removed Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima from their prominent spot on these age-old products.
Two proud staples in the African American community.
Yes.
We threw them to the dustbin of history in the name of equality and justice for black people.
Yes. But yet we can't change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And what pisses me off even more is, you know why they're mad? Because they're unpatriotic pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Because the Mexico became America. If it became the Gulf of George Floyd, they would be buying. They wouldn't be able to buy because they're all broke and they can't afford boats. So they would be making Cuban door boats and floating around the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Well, the Gulf of George Floyd, partying their asses off. But because they are such un-American, unpatriotic pieces of shit, they're mad because the word America is there. Yeah. Get on, bitches.
Yeah, it shows too that they are unpatriotic. Again, like even me, when I heard about the thing, thought it was funny. Also thought, kind of dumb. Not something I'm really interested in or whatever. But then I actually thought a little bit more. I'm like, well, why is it called the Gulf of Mexico? Like, Mexico isn't the only country. I think I mentioned this in the last time that it touches. There's like dozens of countries that are in the Gulf of Mexico, including America and Jamaica and Cuba and Aruba and all the island nations that are in the Gulf of Mexico. Why does Mexico should it be called the Gulf of Mexico?
Hey,
if anything, all of these countries, including the Gulf itself, are in the continent of North America. So in theory, the Gulf of America actually makes more sense than the Gulf of Mexico does, even from like my logical worldview of like geography.
I don't even think we should stop at the Gulf. I want instead of the Long Island sound, I want the Connecticut sound. Okay.
Yeah,
I live right
for New York.
I live on the Gold Coast of Connecticut. I want the Stamford sound.
Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, we want that, and we want the congestion pricing thing to go away for good. Well, that's gonna be a whole. I don't want to drop that an hour and a half in. That's our own thing. But that's
and the idea that Andrew Cuomo is going to run again.
Good luck. Good luck. Yeah, that'll be fun though. If he comes back, that'll be fun. We'll have a lot to talk about. Yeah, it'll be fun. Hey, buddy, how you doing? 5 years later, we're still here. Yeah, where you been? Yeah.
How's your nipple piercings? Yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Let's get the F out of here. All right, Doom Nation, thank you guys for joining us once again. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned a little something. We will be back next week. I don't know if we'll have a guest, but like we said, we do have guests coming up in the future.
Yeah, we're going to try and get Garrett. Let's try and get Garrett next week in here and talk some crazy shit.
We have attorney Ken Good coming on in 2 weeks. We still have a laundry list of liquors to review, and we will probably be playing video games again soon. So make sure you come back to the Two Doom Men podcast for all your, cultural needs, political news, current events, all that good stuff. And if you want to learn a little bit about what good whiskey is, go check out the Doomed Reviews. And on that note, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Yes. Adios.
Please do. If you're listening on the audio, which we tend to have majority of our people who follow the show listen on audio, go to our YouTube and subscribe, like it. We have hit a shadow
excommunicadoed
wall on YouTube since
February 3rd.
There was zero activity somehow, basically, on our YouTube channel. So help us out. Try and break that. It's obviously a shadow ban or something like that. It was right around the time that Tulsi got confirmed, and I posted that video. Maybe that has something to do with it. We pissed somebody off at YouTube. So help us out. Like, share, and subscribe.
I think we start tweeting Elon to investigate YouTube and help us with the shadow ban.
Yeah, that's on the laundry list of things for Doge to do. All right, everybody. Adios.
See you guys later.